welcome everyone to our first meeting of 2018. Thank you. Mayor Hunt is out of town this week, so I'm running the meeting. We have 3 public hearings, 1 unfinished business, and 4 new business items. So just, so people know that. We will get started. I'll ask Councilman Huck to do the invocation, followed by the pledge by Councilman Cannella. So if everyone would stand.
Father God in heaven, we're grateful to you for this nation and for this community that you've blessed us with and the many freedoms and the safety that we enjoy. Please lead us in the way that we should go, guide us and direct us, and help us to maintain and safeguard the liberties that you have blessed us with. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're on item C, special presentations. The manager will introduce new employees.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This evening, it will be a slight departure from normal. We're going to introduce the employees that you know, but to highlight for the public their new roles within the organization. First up is Graham Wilson, who until a few days ago was our Commissioner of the Revenue. He has now accepted the position as Assistant City Manager and began his work with us last week. Anything you'd like to say, Graham?
No, I just will say, after serving 18 years as Commissioner of Revenue, I'm excited about this new role, serving the citizens of Poquoson and working with everyone on council and also the staff. I'm looking forward to my opportunity. Thank you.
And the other person, sir, I'd like to introduce in his new role to the public is our new Commissioner of the Revenue, Jeff Sylvia. Jeff has also worked with the Commissioner's Office for many years, but upon Mr. Wilson's resignation as the senior person in the office under code, he assumed the position.
My daughters told me to be brief, so I just wanted to say thank you to all of you, and it's an honor to serve with such great citizens and great leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
We're glad to have both of you in your new positions. Look forward to working with you. Our next item D is audience for visitors. Anyone would like to talk to council about anything? We do have the 3 public hearings, so if it's about the public hearing, it'd be more appropriate there probably.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Cast, you might know, and I just wanted to come out tonight to thank you for the opportunity that you have given me to serve on the Poquoson School Board. And I made it a goal that I would lead this board through consolidation. And as you guys know, we have a decision on consolidation. The board is in good hands. And I would just like to say this as one parting moment, is that Dr. Parrish is a great leader, and we're fortunate to have her in the city, and I was very fortunate to work with Dr. Parrish and some of the school board members that are currently there. And I really appreciate the opportunity. I served about, I was going on 7 years. When I started, I had hair and I didn't need these reading glasses, but I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to serve this city, a city that I love and plan to be here for a very long time. And if I can be of assistance to you guys, please let me know.
Thanks, Steve. You did a great job, and we certainly appreciate it. Okay, approval of the minutes. We have a regular session and a work session.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of our regular session of December the 11th, 2017.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Evie is our new clerk. Are gonna be as soon as we make that. Okay, go ahead.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman? Councilman Southall?
Abstain.
And Councilman Hux?
Aye.
Okay, and Councilman Southall, you did abstain?
I did. I wasn't here at the last meeting.
Okay. Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 5-0 with one abstention.
Thank you, and we need the work session. We have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we approve our work session minutes of December the 11th, 2017.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Councilman Southall? Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hux?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 5-0 with one abstention.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us down to item F, public hearings. We have 3. The first one is proposed amendment to section 1-23, parentheses 1 of the zoning ordinance to allow accessory structures to measure 1.2 times the height of a principal dwelling measuring 24 feet or less, not to exceed 25 feet in height. So we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Manager, would you like to comment?
Only to say that Dannon O'Connell will present for staff. He has a short presentation. It's available for your questions, and by way of preview, Dannon will present the next 4 items. So just go ahead and stay up there, Dannon, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
My first presentation of the evening will be for this amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding accessory buildings and private garages. Now, our current regulations for the height of accessory structures state that no accessory building or private garage may be constructed to a height greater than the height of the principal building on the same parcel or lot except as permitted in subsection 5 of this section. A request to amend this was initiated, I believe, by our Board of Zoning Appeals last year based on an application they had for an accessory structure that was deemed too high. I believe the reasoning for this is because there are a lot of homes, specifically one-story homes, that are shorter than average, more higher two-story homes, and which have accessory structures which would not be permitted through this ordinance, especially as some people are raising their accessory structures in order to avoid flood zones. So we've constructed a proposed change that states that for structures measuring less than 25 feet in height, accessory buildings or private garages may be constructed up to 1.25 times the height of the principal building, not to exceed 25 feet in height. For all other structures, no accessory building or private garage may be constructed to the height of the greater than the height of the principal building on the same parcel or lot. So, happy to take any questions that you have.
Vice Mayor. Dannon, this was presented to the Planning Commission and recommended unanimously, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments on this? Okay, well, let's open the public hearing. Anyone from the audience? We're seeing none. We'll go to consideration by council.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by revising section 1-23, parentheses 1, accessory buildings and private garages.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Evie?
Certainly. Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Hux?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. And our second public hearing is proposed amendment to section 1-3, definitions of zoning ordinances to clarify the definition of story and half-story.
Okay.
Damon, go ahead.
So the definitions of story and half-story. This came about actually as a kind of a secondary issue to the Planning Commission's discussion of the previous amendment for the height of accessory structures. One of the planning commissioners had a question regarding the definition of half-stories, and in answering his question, staff were prompted to look at the current definitions of stories and half-stories in the zoning ordinance. We found that our current definitions were exceedingly long and somewhat antiquated, and so we decided to update them as per these proposed changes. So the current definition of story is that portion of a building other than a cellar or mezzanine included between the surface of any floor and the floor next above it, or if there is no floor above it, then the space between the floor and the ceiling next above it. The definition goes on to define mezzanines as when they are deemed a full story, when they cover more than 33% of the area of the story, then discusses a basement or cellar and whether or not it is counted as a story. Nowhere in our current zoning ordinance are mezzanines ever mentioned. We have no regulations pertaining to them, and furthermore, the necessity of having a definition this long regarding the definition of story seems a bit excessive. So we have made these suggested changes. The new definition of story states that it is that portion of a building other than an unheated cellar, basement, or attic, included between the surface of any floor and the surface of the floor next above it, or if there is no floor above it, then the space between the floor and the ceiling next above it. So the references to mezzanines have been removed, and the definition of whether a basement or attic is included is significantly shortened. Also note the addition of unheated space as a way to differentiate between stories and not stories. In the same vein, the definition of half-story currently is a space under a sloping roof, which has the line of intersection of roof decking and wall face not more than 3 feet above the top floor level, and in which space not more than 2/3 of the floor area is finished off for use. The new definition reads, a heated space under a sloping roof, which has the line of intersection of roof decking and wall face not more than 3 feet above the top floor level, and in which space the floor area does not exceed 2/3 of the floor area immediately below it, and does not contain an independent dwelling unit. The last couple of lines were taken, I believe, from the zoning ordinance of the City of Newport News. Staff considered that it was a pertinent addition, as the only mention of half-story in our current zoning ordinance pertains to village commercial. In the village commercial zoning district, it is permitted by right to build up to a height of 3.5 stories, which would mean that 4-story, effectively, apartment buildings or mixed-use buildings would be permitted by right. Therefore, we have decided to change the definition as follows: to not permit independent dwelling units. I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments? Okay, well, we'll move to consideration by council. Is there a motion? I'm sorry, we'll open the public hearing first. Anyone from the public like to speak on this issue? Okay, we'll close the public hearing then, and consideration by council.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by revising section 1-3 definitions.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Evie?
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, get down to number 3, a request by Andrew Vizquera, applicant, and SGC With Creek LLC owner for a conditional use permit to authorize the establishment and operation of a tattoo and piercing studio at 475 With Creek Road, tax map parcel 27-1-107A, zoned B2 business. So we'll open the public hearing, or I'm sorry, Dan. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So this presentation is for the conditional use permit for 475 With Creek Road. The request is to establish and operate a tattoo and piercing studio within one suite of the With Creek Plaza Shopping Center. The property is currently zoned B2 for business and commercial. Tattoo and piercing studios are not specifically permitted within the B2 district. However, as per Section 1-8 of our zoning ordinance, any use that is not specifically permitted can be applied for with a conditional use permit. This request was presented to the Planning Commission on December 4th, 2017, and was recommended for approval by a vote of 5-1. So this is an overhead view of the property, the With Creek Plaza Shopping Center. As you can tell, it is a regularly shaped parcel that is split into two separate structures. Here's a zoning overlay map of the parcel. Directly to the property's west is a vacant commercial site, which was the former site of the Kentucky Taco Hut restaurant. To the property's east, there is the Wells Fargo and the current headquarters of our state representative. To the south, across the street, is the Food Lion Shopping Center. And to the north and far west of the property, there is undeveloped commercial land zoned for general commercial. Here's another map of the With Creek Plaza Shopping Center. The main shopping center is above, and it is the one that contains Taylor's Do-It Center and a number of other commercial properties. The building that we are talking about tonight is the smaller structure that is directly off of Victory Boulevard, which is highlighted in pink right there. I have some pictures of the property. This is the far left suite, middle suites, far right, and here is the parking lot looking out onto With Creek Road. On Victory Boulevard, sorry. There's some considerations. The available shopping center, the smaller building, is approximately 5,000 square feet and divided into 5 retail suites of around 1,000 square feet each. None of the 5 suites currently have permanent tenants. The applicant has indicated that he wishes to occupy the suite that is furthest south, closest to Victory Boulevard, that was the former site of a cleaners. The property does have direct access from Victory Boulevard. The traffic and parking impacts for this use are expected to be as or less impactful than similar retail uses. And Architectural Review Board approval will be required for any new signage. Furthermore, there is Section 54 of Poquoson City Code, which does contain standards for tattoo studios. This includes disclosure, hygiene, licenses, waivers, proof of age, record keeping, inspections, cleanliness, vaccinations, and permitting. Specifically, this use will require the issuance of a permit from the Virginia Department of Health prior to operation. The applicant has previously obtained both a permit and a business license for the operation of a tattoo studio in Virginia Beach. These are some pictures the applicant has provided to us of a tattoo studio that he used to operate. The proposed conditions were proposed by staff and were recommended by the Planning Commission and are the following. 1, the use must comply with all local, state, and federal regulations. If at any time this use is operating in violation of any of the regulations set forth, the City Council may revoke this permit. 2, the approved use permit shall only be for a tattoo and piercing studio use and shall not be interpreted for any other use. If the proposed use changes to another form of professional or retail service, the permit shall be evaluated by the zoning administrator, who will determine if the new use meets the intent of the permit. Condition 3, prior to any on-site expansion of the proposed use, the zoning administrator shall review the proposal to determine whether reconsideration of this permit is necessary by council. 4, if at any time the specified permitted use or the property is discontinued for a period of 2 or more years, this permit shall become null and void. Finally, 5, City Council reserves the right to review and amend the conditions of this permit as they see fit. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
I just have a question for Dan. So this business, so this type of business is not currently permitted by the current zoning district for that
Correct. It is
area?
not specifically allowed anywhere in our zoning ordinance.
Okay, so there's no other districts in the city that would permit that?
Not by right. It is specifically prohibited in village commercial, but tattooing establishments are not mentioned in any other zoning district.
Okay, so it would require a conditional use permit
Mhm.
regardless of where it was in the city?
Yes. Our zoning ordinance states that any use that is not specifically permitted can be applied for with a conditional use permit.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak for or against?
Hello, my name is Rachel Anderson. I am Andrew Vizcarra's business partner. And first, I wanted to apologize for him not being here this evening. He had some business to take care of out of state. I wanted to make myself available to you for any questions that you may have for him, us, me, any of us. And I wanted to let you guys know a little bit about why we chose Poquoson. I grew up in a very small town. In Ohio, we had around 30,000 people. It was one of those small towns that everyone knew everyone, and we, like I said, we also are very much like Poquoson in that it's hard to bring new things into the city. And it took a very long time of people leaving the city to spend their money elsewhere for new businesses to come in. It wasn't even until I had left my hometown that they had allowed a Walmart and a Target into town. And, I mean, up until then, we'd always had to go to neighboring cities. So what we're trying to do for Poquoson is to keep your money and your people here in this city. And we want to make it so that people who want to get tattoos and body piercings have a place to go in Poquoson. They don't have to take their money to Hampton or Newport News or Norfolk or Hampton, Gloucester. You know, they don't have to leave. They can come right here and do this. And I know that tattooing has a stigma attached to it. People will look at it and they'll think gangs and they'll think, you know, criminals. But I want to let you know that tattooing nowadays is not like that. It is an art form. It is something that people get to express themselves. That's why they're tattoo artists. I'm not, you know, a tattoo chicken murderer. So we wanted to make sure that the people of Poquoson had a place to go for those types of things. Thank you. Any questions right now? I'll just take, no?
Your address?
Huh?
Your address,
My
please.
address? 754 April Lane, Newport News.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
I like to speak myself. My name's John Rowe. I know most of y'all probably know me. As you can tell, I got a lot of tattoos, and most of them were gotten from out of the city. There is a stigmatism, but I do believe that if you bring this in, you're going to bring a lot more revenue into the city because there's going to be people wanting to come in. This man has a great following. I just want to see y'all hopefully make the right decisions. You know me, you're not going to have gang violence and all that in this city. If you got any questions of me, I'll be more than happy to ask. I'm a 5-year vet, so any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
John, address.
1057 Poquoson Avenue.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Okay, well, I'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution denying a conditional use permit for the establishment of a tattoo and piercing studio at 475 With Creek Road, tax map parcel number 27-1-107A.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Ms. Inslee?
Certainly.
Or no, let's don't do it. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Inslee.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Can I ask for a clarification since I'm the first one to vote? Can you repeat your motion?
I move that we adopt the resolution denying a conditional use permit for establishment of a tattoo and piercing studio at 475 With Creek Road, tax map parcel number 27-107A. Motion to deny.
So an aye vote is a motion to deny the application.
Correct.
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
No.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
And Councilman Green?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 5-1.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Go ahead.
Just for those that are watching at home, to reiterate Ms. Andrews' question, so the council voted 5-0 to deny the request. Excuse me, 5-1, excuse me, Mr. Canella.
Okay, that moves us to item G, unfinished business. Ordinance amending Poquoson's farm animal regulations by revising Appendix A, zoning, Section 1-17. This has been, I think we've had at least 2 work sessions on this and a great amount of discussion, so maybe we can get this in the reg tonight. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, we're going to have a presentation first?
Oh, yes, we do, I'm sorry.
All right, so I'll be here presenting the latest edition of the amendment to the farm animal ordinance. I believe at their November meeting, council discussed the farm animal ordinance and decided to hold off on voting on it until a definition of farm animals could be added to the ordinance. So before you is 2 drafts of the farm animal ordinance with 2 slightly different variations of a definition of farm animals. Proposed definition 1, that is the first copy of the ordinance before you, states that in the beginning of the ordinance, farm animals are defined as animals typically kept on farms, e.g. horses, cattle, sheep, goats, swine, poultry, and bees, for productive uses or commodities such as eggs, meat, milk, or wool. Farm animals may be kept in the city, subject to obtaining a use permit and subject to the following conditions. The second version of the proposed definition is the same as the first, save for an additional line stating that up to 2 farm animals smaller than 300 pounds, excluding roosters, which are not kept for commercial or productive use, may be kept in single-family residential areas without a use permit. Now, both definitions do include bees, as defined as farm animals, and they attempt to differentiate farm animals from common pet animals such as cats and dogs, which are included in the animal ordinance, separate from the zoning ordinance. The second definition that is presented adds an exception to farm animal permits for those with up to 2 animals of less than 300 pounds, which are kept as non-commercial or productive pets. That excludes roosters. This is somewhat of a policy that we already have regarding such animals such as pot-bellied pigs, which we usually consider pets if they are kept indoors. This would allow a specific exception if someone were to have an animal like that, or say a miniature horse or another animal that they were keeping not for the production of anything like eggs or meat or wool or milk, that they would be keeping as a pet specifically. The changes to the keeping of chickens or fowl is the same as what was previously presented to you. We've moved existing chicken keeping regulations to a new section that was previously reserved as per last session's discussion on beekeeping. This reintroduces a ban on roosters that was from previous drafts. However, it accepts agricultural estates of 3 acres or more, or with a conditional use permit. We've kept the changes to farm animal permit renewals. However, we have added one more line to the end of this section since the last time this ordinance has gone to you, stating that renewal permits for beekeeping are also not subject to fees or notifications to adjacent property owners. And this is to clarify council's position that any permit for bees shall be effectively a one-time permit with a one-time permit fee and a one-time notification of adjacents. However, the permit shall be renewed automatically by staff each year. Finally, at the end of the ordinance, this is just stating that chicken keeping regulations have been moved from this last section up to section A4. I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments?
I do have a question. Okay, I just want to make sure that I understand this. So in a residential area, that first slide that you had, what is allowed in a residential area? Say if it was less. So a full-size horse obviously is not permitted in a residential neighborhood, right?
Well, farm animals are allowed in single-family residential and conservation districts. They're allowed essentially if you have enough acreage and if you comply with the conditions of the ordinance, you can have them anywhere within a single-family district.
Right, but you have to have a certain number of acres.
Correct.
Okay.
I believe it would be 3 acres for one horse.
Does that acreage apply to in this, because we've had so many changes to this, does that acreage apply to the smaller 300 pound or less also?
The way this is written currently, no, it would not. These would just be an exception to these animals. They would simply be kept as pets like you would keep a cat or a dog.
Okay. And goats are included in that?
Yes.
Okay.
As currently written, yes.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I could, the reason that roosters are specifically called out and no other animals are in the definition that we put forward at your request was simply because of your previous conversation about roosters. We wanted to make real sure that in taking action to remove roosters for the most part from residential areas, we didn't then create through this action something that gave people sort of by right to have 2 in every backyard. So certainly, I understand the council may wish to amend it further, and we anticipated that in the drafting. We just wanted to cleave closely to the previous discussions that you all had in the last couple of months.
Would you like to suggest further amendment?
I think he has to,
Well, you can suggest, and then he can put it in an amendment, or you can just do it. Say again?
he said got it.
I got it
Oh,
covered.
okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Do have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by revising Appendix A, Section 1-17, keeping of farm animals, and this is the second version, which under 117A reads, farm animals are defined as animals typically kept on farms, e.g. horses, cattle, sheep, goats, swine, poultry, and bees, for productive uses or commodities such as eggs, milk, meat, milk, or wool. Up to 2 farm animals smaller than 300 pounds, excluding roosters, and I'd like to add, and goats, which are not kept for commercial or productive use, may be kept in single-family residential areas without a use permit. So it's the second version.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Inslee?
Certainly. Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, new business. We have 4 items. First one is resolution directing that public notice be given to council's intent to receive bids for sale of publicly owned properties located at Moore Road and Poquoson Avenue, Cedar Road. That's 2 properties.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if you would like, the Assistant City Manager is prepared to summarize that and explain to the public what this is and the process going forward.
Graham?
Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor, honorable members of council. Before you tonight, as you said, is a resolution directing that public notice be given of council's intent to receive bids for the sale of publicly owned property. There are two properties to be advertised. The first is a 15-foot strip of city-owned property running from Moore Road to the rear property line of Pasture Road. It is with the city retaining a maintenance and drainage easement on this property. The second property is a small portion of city property, approximately 1,500 square feet, immediately adjacent to a tax map parcel 20-1-133 from an existing city right-of-way, which is located at the corner of Poquoson Avenue and Cedar Road, again with the city retaining a sidewalk easement on this property. The resolution presented to you tonight for consideration will authorize the city to advertise the sale of these properties, the cost of the advertisement which will be borne by each of the successful bidders. The ad will run for once a week for 2 successive weeks. Once this requirement has been met, the ordinances granting the sale of these properties will be brought back to you for consideration and adoption. That'll be on February 12th. The bids received will be opened at this same meeting and will be read aloud. Following a public hearing, the ordinances can be adopted if the bids are acceptable. And that is the process.
Okay, any questions or comments for the Assistant Manager?
I just pointed that they will be sealed bids. In other words, anybody bidding is going to have a sealed bid presented to the city, which will not be opened until that evening. So the bid has to be in the manager's hands before 7 p.m. that night.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution of the Council of the City of Poquoson, Virginia, directing that public notice be given of the council's intention to receive bids for the sale of publicly owned properties located at Moore Road and Poquoson Avenue/Cedar Road.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Inslee?
Certainly. Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item of new business is a resolution making appointments of the city clerk, deputy city clerk, and Freedom of Information Officer. Mr. Manager, you have a comment on this?
No, sir.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution appointing the city clerk, deputy city clerk, and FOIA officer with the following names inserted. For city clerk, Ms. Evie Inslee. Deputy city clerk, Kim Healy. FOIA officer, Mr. Graham Wilson.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for those appointments. Ms. Inslee?
Thank you. Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, and now I can bring back my congratulations, and it will be appropriate.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 3 is a resolution making appointments to the Library Advisory Board, the Architectural Review Board, the School Board, and Council Liaison to the Poquoson Museum Board, which is a new position. Questions or comments? Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution making appointments to the Library Advisory Board, Architectural Review Board, the School Board, and Council Liaison to the Poquoson Museum Board, with the following names inserted. For the Library Advisory Board, Ms. Amy Ziegler from the Central Precinct, whose term would expire January 31st, 2021. At large, Kathleen Orr, whose term will expire January 31st, 2020. For the Architectural Review Board, Mr. Steve Schott and Mr. Thomas A. Burcher, who is the attorney, Their terms will expire January 31st, 2021. For the school board, Dr. Gary Carter, at large. His term will expire June 30th, 2018. And for the council liaison to the Poquoson Museum Board, Jana Andrews.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for these appointments. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Inslee.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
and Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 4 on the last item under that section is resolution authorizing VOT or VDOT agreements.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, as you're aware, any good news that relates to the state of Virginia often comes with a whole bunch of paperwork. Mr. Fegans, on behalf of the engineering department, will present, but there really is good news here. And if you've had a chance to read your package, you will recall that a few months ago, Ms. Roberts brought to us a plan to use some money that had identified as potentially available for us through the Commonwealth Transportation Board to work on a sidewalk extension project and work on some of the badly needed areas of repaving on Wythe Creek, the ones that couldn't wait for the larger expansion project. And Mr. Fegans is going to come, he's going to summarize that for you, and one additional agreement that VDOT has asked us to also ask you to authorize so that I can move forward on the project that you have already given your consent to.
Right. In front of the council, there are 3 different resolutions regarding 4 separate road projects, each for your consideration. The first resolution is regarding the Poquoson Avenue project and the Wythe Creek Road repaving project. It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into any and all agreements regarding the Poquoson Avenue sidewalk and Wythe Creek Road repaving projects. Within this resolution, it agrees to pay the city's share of for the project, which is $10,186. It agrees to reimburse any expended funds if Poquoson cancels the project, and it also authorizes the city manager to enter into any and all agreements for the projects. The second resolution is a resolution approving the Wythe Creek Road traffic signal upgrade project. Similarly to the previous resolution, the project has received funding, and in order to complete the project, the city manager must be able to enter into agreements with VDOT, and it also agrees to reimburse any expended funds if Poquoson cancels the projects. And the third and final one is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into any and all agreements regarding the Wythe Creek Road widening project. Our new VDOT project manager was recently reviewing our current project files, and it was made aware of us that it was not, that the city manager currently did not have the authority to enter into agreement with VDOT to manage the project. And previous resolutions have already accepted the design and funding and agreed to reimburse funding if the project was canceled.
Thank you. Any questions? Council? Is this the first time that you have spoken to us?
Except for my introduction. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you did a fine job, and we're glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, no discussion?
Just have a question. Wayne, can we pass all 3 of these at one time?
I think you can. I don't see any reason not to. They don't conflict, so
Okay, thank
you
you.
can move to pass all 3 at one time.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we pass all 3 resolutions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Inslee?
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, I do have a few things this evening, principally for the public's benefit. Just some informational notes. Thanks to both our Public Works folks and everyone for their diligence, their patience, and they're good choices in dealing with the recent snow, which I hope at this moment is being melted away. But a few items relating to that. First, in case someone did not receive a phone call today, our public school system is closed tomorrow. I heard that about 5 o'clock this evening. The red recycling route, you were due to be picked up today. The blue route will pick up on Saturday the 13th because of the upcoming holiday and weather delays and all kinds of other things. For those folks that have just an amount of recycling that they need to do something with in the short term as we work through these revised schedules, just would note to the public, we do have a bright green recycling dumpster behind City Hall, and the public is welcome to use it for recycling. So it is available if you have a need in the interim. Lastly, because of when the storm hit, the folks, myself included, who are regular Thursday trash pickup folks, a couple of things that we're doing to try to help those folks out, because by the time we could get trucks back, it was already on another schedule. And rather than to change everyone's schedule, which was very difficult to communicate out, what we decided to do, noting that there was no perfect answer, is this Thursday will be your regular Thursday pickup. For those people that have trash left over from last week, any type of garbage bag, you don't have to use the green bags, you don't have to use green bags at all. We'll accept any household trash that you want to put next to your trash at no additional charge. Additionally, there are folks that may have food that they need to get rid of, or other things that really they don't feel can't wait till Thursday. So this week, including today and through the end of Wednesday, we will have one of our trucks at the municipal pool from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. to take household trash of any type for those people inconvenienced by last week's missed Thursday delivery. If you've got something that you just need to get out of your trash cans or out of your house that is household trash, we're there and glad to take it for the next 3 days, again at the pool from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we should be back on our regular schedule then. And that's all I have.
Okay, I just noticed there's no scheduled council comments, so I guess we can't say anything.
And our enthusiasm.
Anyway, we'll add that agenda item. We'll start with Councilwoman Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I think it's noteworthy, and I'd like to acknowledge our dedicated city staff, that our government right here in the city of Poquoson, with one exception, was the only local government up and running, open for business on Friday, the day after the snowstorm. So I'd like to thank our fine city staff for making that possible, especially the ones that had to actually work outside in the weather. So thank you very much.
Councilman Green?
Nothing this evening, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Councilman Candela?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. A couple things. Just thank former Chairman Cast for his years of service to our school board and to our city. Congratulate our newly appointed board members and appointees, Ms. Evie and Kim and Graham. And I am certainly thankful we passed the farm animal ordinance, as I'm sure everyone here is, and anyone who watches council meetings. I did want to clarify my vote on the conditional use permit regarding a tattoo parlor. I voted against the denial. I thought it was a good opportunity to bring a veteran-owned small business to the city, and that was the reason for my vote. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Ms. Andrews, or Councilwoman Andrews?
Just ditto what, the other council members have said regarding our city employees and what a great job they did.
Councilman Southall?
Yeah, I'd like to second Thomas Canella's comments for Stephen Cass and thank him for his excellent service to the school board for 7 years. He did an excellent job there. and we're looking forward to Mr. Gary Cass's work on the school board. I'd also like to second Councilman Hux's comments relative to the city staff. Again, we were one of two cities operating on Friday after the snowstorm, and the public works people did an excellent job on their roads. All our main arteries were open and able to be traversed, although we had really bad snow conditions, but they did an excellent job, and we could move around that city when you needed to. And I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. I unfortunately had to miss last council session, and so this is my first opportunity to say Happy New Year, and tell Miss Judy, because I know that she's watching tonight, that her presence is still felt here at the council.
Okay, thank you. I think we, as a city, just had a great 2017, and just want to thank everybody, all of our employees, plus our citizens, which contribute, a lot as well. So just generally thank everybody for such a great year, and we look forward to 2018 as well. And that's all I have. Okay, I guess it's down to an adjournment motion. Does anybody have one?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Inslee.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Hux,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
and Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, and we are adjourned.